Paul Pierce and Danny Green ignited a firestorm on December 2025, claiming Michael Jordan had a limited bag compared to SGA. The claim fundamentally misunderstands what Jordan's game was and why it was perfectly calibrated for his era. Jordan possessed one of the most complete and adaptable offensive skill sets in NBA history, with 10 scoring titles, a career average 30.1 PPG, and documented mastery across post play, footwork, mid-range, and finishing. The real story isn't that Jordan lacked moves. It is that his rules environment made certain moves optimal while rendering modern bag aesthetics unnecessary. Okay, so what Pierce and Green actually said. The comments came on the No Fouls Given podcast while praising SGA's historic run. Pierce declared, Mike had a limited bag. He didn't need to do all that fancy explicit. He was right to the business. He was 1-2 dribble pull-up, no bag. Danny Green offered more nuance. Shea has more of a bag though, but clarified that Jordan had a bag but did not need to use it. This distinction matters. Green's qualifier that Jordan had moves he didn't need to deploy actually undermines the limited framing. The conversation reveals a conflation between aesthetic move diversity and scoring effectiveness. Pierce defined bag narrowly as dribble handles to a shot, ignoring post footwork, fadeaways, counter moves, and the fundamentals that made Jordan unstoppable. And here's the thing, Jordan's offensive arsenal was encyclopedic. The 1-2 dribble pull-up characterization erases the documented breadth of Jordan's game. His arsenal included drop steps and up and unders in the post, a turnaround fadeaway executable over either shoulder, shooting 82% of fadeaways in his final 2 Bulls seasons, baseline reverse layups, double clutch and triple clutch finishes, mid-air hand switches, jab step series, and pivot foot mastery that Nike literally designed a shoe around. And film studies that says Jordan was the most complete scoring weapon in NBA history, who could score in the post, off the ball, in pick and roll, and in isolation with a gaggle of efficient moves. The statistical evidence is overwhelming. In 96-97, Jordan made 547 mid-range field goals at 49.5% efficiency. Reggie Miller, considered the era's premier shooter, made only 484 at 42.4%. According to statistical analysis, Jordan owned 6 of the 9 highest pace-adjusted scoring rates in NBA history. His playoff shooting charted at 65% at the rim, 46% from the mid-range, and maintained elite efficiency even as his volume increased in postseason pressure. No player in history matched his combination of volume and efficiency across 3 distinct phases of a career. Jordan's game transformed dramatically across 15 years, disproving any notion of a static limited toolkit. From 84 to 87, he dominated as an explosive slasher with one of the best first steps in NBA history, practically teleporting past elite defenders like Sidney Moncrief. By 1988-1993, he developed his trademark fadeaway, improved his three-point shooting to 37.6% in 89-90 season, and won Defensive Player of the Year while maintaining scoring dominance. The most remarkable transformation came post-baseball. After his 1993 retirement, Jordan returned and reinvented himself as a post-up assassin. Chicago Tribune writer Sam Smith documented that Jordan had become much stronger, even more a student of the game, and had developed an indefensible fall-away move in the post. B.J. Armstrong witnessed both versions. The player that he was in 91, 92, 93 could overwhelm you with pure raw athleticism. The player you saw in 96, 97, 98 was a totally different player. The genius was that he was able to do it in a completely different way. Jordan won scoring titles at ages 32, 33, and 34, the oldest player to accomplish this, doing it 3 consecutive times by mastering entirely new skill sets as athleticism declined. What coaches and defenders experienced firsthand? The people who actually schemed against Jordan tell a different story than limited back. Chuck Daly created the infamous Jordan rules specifically because conventional defense couldn't contain Jordan's diverse attack. Anytime he went by you, you had to nail him. If he was coming off a screen, nail him. The Pistons needed an entire defensive system dedicated to a one player because his offensive options were too numerous for individual defenders. Joe Dumars, Jordan's primary defender for 14 years, described facing a very smart player who introduced certain tricks to make me expand on my talents as an offensive player. Hakeem Olajuwon analyzed Jordan's decision-making. He won't settle for an open jumper. He wants better than I'm giving him. So he dribbles toward me. Sooner or later, I'll have to come to him, at which point he can either shoot before I get there or drive around me. It is a very subtle, very impressive set of decisions he makes. Gary Payton, the 1996 Defensive Player of the Year, developed a specific strategy. I made him work, made it hard for him to get the ball. People were so easy on him to give him the ball and then he'll kill you. Even Payton, one of the history's best perimeter defenders, could only slow Jordan by denying him the ball entirely, not by defending his moves. The rules created different optimal moves. The illegal defense rule, eliminated in 2001-2002, fundamentally shaped what constituted effective offense. Before zone defense was legalized, defenders couldn't play in between the ball and their man. They had to either commit the full double team or guard their assigned player. As Jason Williams explained, when MJ had the ball on the wing, all he had to do worry about was the primary defender. MJ only had one guy. This context transforms the limited bag argument. Extended dribble sequences, the heart of the modern bag aesthetics, were counterproductive under hand-checking rules that let defenders physically steer ball handlers. B.J. Armstrong revealed Jordan's calculated adaptation. He figured out he had to catch the ball in the position to score, so he learned to operate from the post and on the weak side and play the game with 3 dribbles or less. This wasn't limitation, it was optimization. The paint looked entirely different too. Centers could legally camp under the rim without defensive 3-second violations. Stretch 5s didn't exist. Teams averaged 3.1 3-point attempts per game in Jordan's rookie year versus 35 plus today. The fadeaway Jordan made famous is now nearly extinct because the rules that made it optimal no longer exist. James Harden took only 29 baseline two-pointers out of 1,909 total shots in his MVP season. Modern spacing demands different solutions. Today's guards face fundamentally different problems. Legal zone defense means multiple help defenders can position at the nail and elbow to cut off drives. The defensive 3-second rule opened the paint but allowed roaming shot blockers. Modern bag moves, step-back threes, extended hesitation sequences, Euro steps solve these new defensive puzzles. While Jordan's game was perfectly calibrated for the kind of hands-on physical play of the 90s, Harden's game is perfectly suited for the hands-off, data-driven dogma of today. Technically, these fellas play the same sport, but comparisons across these two eras can get wonky in a hurry. The Eurostep itself illustrates era-specific evolution. Larry Bird or Sarunas Marciulionis brought it to the NBA in 1989. The move wasn't technically legal until 2009, when the NBA clarified the gather step rule. Vlade Durovic experienced American pickup game reactions. I started to do it and they said, "Hey man, what are you doing? Traveling man." Jordan didn't use Euro steps because they weren't needed to evade help defense that couldn't legally exist. The bag debate is fundamentally aesthetic. The term bag itself emerged in the social media era. LeBron James, who faces identical no-bag criticism despite scoring more points than any player in history, noted, "When I was growing up, it wasn't talked about." He addresses critics directly. I'll be on social media and like, LeBron has no bag, and I'm sitting here like I got 50 billion points. LeBron, Steve Nash, and Luka Doncic unanimously agreed on their podcast that obsession with bag actually harms player development. LeBron explained, Michael Jordan wasn't out there dribbling 1,000 times to get to the spot. He'd get to a spot and raise. Isaiah Thomas, as great of a handle as Isaiah Thomas had, Isaiah would get to a spot and raise. Even Kobe Bryant, considered to have one of the history's deepest bags, faced efficiency criticism for forcing high-volume shots. He missed more field goals than any player in NBA history. Phil Jackson wrote that Bryant tends to force the action, especially when the game isn't going his way. Having more moves doesn't guarantee better outcomes. Fair acknowledgement of SGA's greatness. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander deserves every bit of praise he receives. His MVP season, 32.7 PPG and 51.9 shooting, while leading the Thunder to a championship, represents legitimate modern greatness. He became the fourth player in NBA history to win a scoring title, regular season MVP, and finals MVP in the same season, joining Kareem and Michael, who accomplished it 4 times, and Shaquille O'Neal, only second guard to achieve this feat. His specific statistical combination, 30 plus PPG, 50% plus FG, 5 plus rebounds, 5 plus assists, 1.5 plus steals, 1 plus blocks, has only been matched by Jordan himself. SJ's style, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, 2 guys who leveraged mid-range pull-ups and fadeaways. SJ takes 36.7% of his shots from mid-range versus the 11.6% league average. He is actually the most Jordan-like modern scorer, not his opposite. His game represents evolution within the same foundational style, not revolution away from it. The difference between different and limited cross-era player comparison requires evaluating relative dominance within the context, not transplanting players across the rule sets. Time travel coups you directly from the 50s to 2020s and he doesn't make the league. Time travel Chris Paul to the 1950s and he destroys the league. Neither scenario tells us who was actually better. Jordan acknowledged these realities. We play in different eras. I take it with a grain of salt. But he also noted that today's players don't even have a clue on how we had to grow up and how we had to play. You couldn't cross the lane without getting checked. Scottie Pippen estimated Jordan could score 100 points in today's game given current defensive rules. So this is the conclusion. Optimization masquerading as limitation. The Pierce Green claim reveals more about how we discuss basketball than about Jordan's actual abilities. Jordan possessed post moves, perimeter skills, 3-level scoring and counter-move mastery documented across 15 years of the evolution. He adapted from explosive athlete to footwork technician to post-up master, winning scoring titles in all 3 phases. Coaches created entire defensive schemes just for him. Defenders described facing a very subtle, very impressive set of decisions. Tim Grover trained him for 14 years and watched Jordan eliminate every weakness methodically. What Pierce called a limited bag was actually ruthless optimization, using 3 dribbles instead of 10, catching in position to score, deploying the fadeaway instead of the step back because one-on-one defense couldn't stop it. Different rules rewarded different solutions. Jordan's moves were calibrated for an environment where help couldn't come legally, contact was constant, and the paint was packed. His limited toolkit produced the highest career scoring average in NBA history and 6 championships. The debate ultimately reduced to this: do we evaluate basketball skills by aesthetic variety or by results achieved within competitive constraints? Jordan faced the greatest defenders of his era under rules that made his game harder to execute, and dominated anyway. That is not limitation, that is mastery.